Hi guys, this is Yuki bringing you another basic tactics video for Commands Colors Napoleonics. Today's topic is artillery targeting priority. When I was first learning this game, I always ran into situations where my artilleries have option to fire at multiple enemy targets far away, such as the example shown here on the screen, and I never knew what to do. Situations where both sides are lined up like this are pretty frequently seen in scenarios, so I think it's worth going over the thought process in determining artillery targeting priority. Here's the caveat before we begin. Because Commands and Colors games are first and foremost card-driven games, all the things we talk about here are assuming that we're already optimizing for card play, while taking the whole board into consideration. So what we discuss here should be applied to situations where you are ordering artilleries anyway, and you should not go out of your way to change your strategy just to make these plays with artilleries. Okay, so let's get started. First, let us go over the basic characteristics of an artillery unit. So we will use foot artillery as an example here, as this is the most common kind of artillery that we see in the game, but the general principles should still apply to the other variants of the artillery unit. Foot artilleries can either move one hex and not battle, or not move and battle. It fires at 4, 3, 2, 1, 1 by default, and 3, 2, 1, 1 when it's reduced to a single block. So as you can see, artilleries are a lot more deadly against units that are closer. So the targeting priority here is usually pretty obvious, but when everything is equally far away at the 1 die range, which is 4 to 5 hexes away, like what we have here on the screen, it's sometimes not so clear which unit you should be firing at. One thing that comes to mind for most players in situations like this, when our artillery can fire at everything they have and their artillery can fire at everything we have, is that shouldn't we just take out their artilleries with our own artilleries so that we can protect our other units in the future? I think some people call this counter battery fire or whatever you want to call it. I'm actually not sure how that term is supposed to be used. But anyway, this is the basic idea. The other option is to spread your firing across many infantry and cavalry units, so that they each loot some blocks, and when it's time for the big engagement between your units, you can come up ahead because the enemy units can't operate at full capacity. So which way is correct? I don't think there is actually a correct answer, or at least an answer that is correct all the time, because the board set is constantly evolving in this game, so you really need to update your assessment of the situation constantly. However, we can still talk about some of the factors that you can consider in making your decisions. So first, let's think about how many dice you need to roll to expect one hit from each unit. Let's review the dice phase distribution in this game. As you can see, we have 2 infantry phases, 1 cavalry phase, 1 artillery phase, 1 saber phase, and 1 flag phase. So because there are 2 infantry phases, each die has 1/3 chance of causing the block loss against an infantry unit, and roughly you can expect 1 block loss for every 3 attack dice that you roll. And to fully eliminate a 4 block infantry unit, you are expected to roll 12 dice. Now let's look at artillery, because there is only 1 artillery phase. To cause a block loss, you are expected to roll 6 dice, and to fully eliminate a 3 block artillery, you are expected to roll 18 dice. And the calculation for cavalry is exactly the same, because there's also only 1 cavalry phase. So to cause a hit, you're expected to roll 6 dice, and you need to roll 18 dice to fully eliminate a 3 block cavalry, and 24 dice for 4 block cavalry. As you can see, out of the 3 types of units, it's much easier to hit and eliminate infantry units. So the next thing to consider is the actual significance of the block loss. For infantry and cavalry, each block that is lost reduces their attack dice by 1. So you see an immediate payoff when you get rid of even just one block. This means that for every 3 dice that you roll against an infantry, you are expected to reduce its attack. And you can expect the same for every 6 dice you roll against the cavalry. For artillery, it's actually a little different because the artillery does not lose attack dice or range until it's down to the last block. This means that for a standard 3 block foot artillery, you actually need to cause 2 block losses before you can successfully weaken the unit. And this would take you 12 dice. And if you were dealing with a Russian 4 block foot artillery unit that occasionally appears in scenarios, then you're expected to roll 18 dice to reduce its attack dice, which is quite unrealistic. So does this mean that we should not bother firing at enemy artilleries at all? That probably shouldn't be the takeaway here. If your goal is to alleviate the pressure enemy artillery is exerting on your own units, then this quote-unquote counter battery fire thing is probably not the most efficient use of your command cards, just based on the number we have shown here. However, another really important phase of the dice distribution is the flag phase. Causing retreats is sometimes even better than causing hits because you're setting opponents back in their progress, and it reduces the chance of their success in their coordinated attacks because their unit advancement becomes asynchronous if one of 2 of their units retreat. And the chance to roll a flag is 1 in 6 for all the units, so in this case it's actually not harder to force an artillery to retreat compared to other units. The example shown here, we see that one of the enemy artilleries is not supported, so if we roll a flag against it, it will have to retreat. And because foot artilleries cannot move and fire in the same turn, one flag that you roll against it will cost your opponent at least 2 command cards to recover in most situations. It's actually a pretty big deal for the opponent, and all you need is 1 flag to accomplish this. As for me, if I can exploit a badly placed enemy artillery unit, then I would definitely focus on it. But obviously, if there are terrain protection or because the unit is elite, like a guard artillery, where they can ignore flags, then I wouldn't bother with it from this far away. Just something to consider if you want to try something like this. It's a similar thought process for the cavalries as well, and we have an example here. On the right side of the board, there is an enemy heavy cavalry and infantry protected by the forest that we can't really fire at. They can coordinate to do some disruptive things on this flank, depending on what the scenario is. Like maybe taking a victory point by attacking and occupying an objective or whatever. I didn't really show that part of the board, but assuming that you want to slow down or weaken this group, it is a little more productive than attacking the artillery because both the block loss and the retreat can benefit you. Because remember, the cavalries also scale their attack dice with the number of blocks they have. So whether you hit it with a symbol or cause it to retreat with the flag, it's going to benefit you either way. So I guess the success chance in this case is actually 1 in 3, if you count both the hit and the flag as an acceptable result. So taking all the things into consideration, it's probably not reasonable to say that you should keep a strict list of firing priority that you should follow at all times, but hopefully you have enough information to work with to come up with a plan to achieve your goals in situations like this. So to summarize, when determining artillery targeting priority, you should ask yourself the following questions. So first, how many dice am I expected to roll to realistically cause a hit? This is usually what I think about first because over the course of the game, you actually don't get to order the same unit over and over again. So there is a pretty finite number of orders that you can give your artilleries per game. So given that your ordering resources are limited and you want to figure out what is the end goal for you here and what you can realistically accomplish. Then I want to look at what is the actual significance or the meaning of me causing the enemy units to lose blocks. So for example, how much benefit do I get if I made a 4-block infantry or cavalry into 3 blocks, or 3 blocks into 2 blocks? Can I realistically make the enemy artillery go down to 1 block? And these can only really be answered with the board situation, and it's probably different every time. And lastly, how much will forcing the enemy retreat benefit me? So, retreats can make enemy units disorganized, and it's harder for them to attack you in general. So, always remember to check what the enemy formation looks like, and be sure to exploit weaknesses like unsupported units. And obviously, try to support your own units so your enemy doesn't try to do the same to you by forcing you to retreat. And also be sure to spot unsupported artillery units so that you can force it to retreat and set your opponent back at least a turn. Flags can mean different things to you based on what's happening in the game and what units you're attacking, so it's really helpful to figure it out before you decide what to attack. Okay, so that's all I have for you guys today. Hopefully this has been helpful. Thank you so much for watching. Please consider joining my Discord server, and I have the Discord server invite in the channel description. And yeah, please let me know what other videos you would like me to make. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.